Some elementary information about the course. This is a lecture, and the topic of the lecture: interaction between physical environment and society in historical past. We are to the closing phase of the definition of terms, the basic concept and the terms. And later I will demonstrate interaction in case studies, in historical case studies, which is your basic research, not research, education field. Tourism. Geographical version, or which is the frame? Geography or economic? Geography, maybe. Okay, good. Anyway, I try to define the background of environmental thinking in the civilization, background of different disciplines, and I try to define the key concepts of environmental history. There are three key concepts. The first one, the methodology, we are over. The second one, the time, and the last one, the space. We have to define for geographer, not so unique, definition of space. Look at the first one. If you open a historical guidebook or historical map, I switch on, okay. A historical map, at least three information you can realize from historical map. The first one, the distance, because a map somehow artificial demonstration of real space. You can see the scale on which help of scale you can transform the real distance on the real space, which demonstrate the map. The second one, a geomorphology. Look at, for example, this map. It's show area of Czech Republic. A green area, valley or plain area. The gray area, it's a hilly area, and the brown, a mountain area. And the last one, a political structure. If you open, for example, a historical map, like, for example, a patchwork, different countries. Look at, for example, Germany. It's very interesting. Somebody lived in Germany? Not yet. Very interesting, because in Germany, very important, the tribal tradition. Bavarian and the Saxon, basically different. Basically different. The dialect, and not some situation not able to understand one to other. And the Prussian. And the crown level, the highest level, the Prussian people, it's possible I told you. And the lowest one, the Bavarian. The Bavarian. And if we are looking this area, very important, unification of Germany happened only in the 19th century. Before the 19th century, German history divided a small kingdom and principalities with different dialect, different tradition, different customs, and basically different. If we are looking at Germany, a different tradition. Only in the 90s. This is the same story in the case of Italy. Before 19th century, Italy divided small part, small principalities, small city-states like Venice, like Genoa, like Florence. It's different and very interesting how coming out in the modern political life the tradition before the unification. Because really, look at, for example, Spain, unified, not. Because Catalonia would like to independent, and the Basque area, Basque province would like to be independent. This is the same situation in Italy, this is the same situation. This is the most important peculiarity of the history. Memory of collective, of humanity, and memory, one community, one country, one area, and very important, saving the memories. It's possible, I told you before. Because if somebody, look at the one person, there is a memory problem, it's destroyed the possibility of the communication each other. Therefore, very interesting and very important, saving the memories. It's possible, I told to you about the theory of Friedrich Nietzsche. No? I spoke about. Okay. There are, and the most important, saving the critical aspect. Critical aspect for description, each historical unit. And very important to memorize that no final cognition on the way of rational cognition. Okay, if we are looking at historical guidebook, distance, geomorphology, the surface, the landscape, and the political structure. If we are looking at the geography, open the geographical guidebook, there are a lot of different theory about the space. Space is different. Space. One of the simplest version, a geographical sphere. A geographical sphere. Probably you remember from secondary school studies about the spheres of Earth. Lithosphere, this is the rock surface of Earth. The pedosphere, it's covering the lithosphere and came from the lithosphere. Somebody know which is the average size of the soil, the pedosphere? Somebody know? How many large? Half meter only. Some location it's 3 meters, other only 10 centimeters. Why so important? Because the pedosphere, this is the field of agriculture, agrarian activity. Therefore, survival of humankind depends on half meter. And very important, in modern countries, a half meter under chemotherapy. It's not real soil, it's a pesticide and fertilizer. Without a pesticide and fertilizer, not able to produce. And very important, survival of humankind, whole of the earth depend on half meter soil in global average. Okay, hydrosphere, very important, the majority of hydrosphere, which cover 71% of the globe, salt water. Only 2.5% are fresh water, and majority of fresh water on the ice cover, on the poles, and the glacier on the mountain. Biosphere, animals and the plants. Atmosphere, and very interesting, the anthroposphere. Somebody know which is the anthroposphere? No? Nobody know? Anthroposphere, the sphere which made by human. This building, highways, which no exist without human activity. And very interesting, anthroposphere is covering whole of the, increase the size and covering larger and larger surface. Look at, for example, cities. In the cities, majority of surface covered by asphalt surface and stones and others. And very interesting and very important, under the asphalted surface, the quality of the soil is very bad. Because no communication with the biosphere, no communication with other part of the living materials, and majority of soil under asphalted surface so dry like in the desert. No possibility rain and melted snow cover. It's flowing down, because which is the most important subject and the goal of urban infrastructure? It's flowing down as most possible quicker each form of the rain and the water. Okay, anthroposphere and the noosphere. Somebody know which is the noosphere? Intellectual sphere around the world. Recently, it's identified as internet. According to geographer, there is an intellectual sphere which covering recently in the globe. Okay, the next concept of space are ecological space. Ecological space. Very important peculiarity of the ecological space that no space dimension, no hierarchy of ecological space. Maybe ecosystem, a puddle on the pavement, and maybe one ecosystem, whole of the earth. No hierarchy between the most important element of definition. It's self-sustainable function of ecosystem. Okay, look at the next concept of the space. Somebody know what means the concept of mental space? The space in our brain. Somebody know which is the very interesting, because for example, this is not so good, the quality of the beamer, but this world map published in Australia. It's not so visible, but here located Australia. This is the point of view of Australia. Why? Because for Australia, the place, the core area of the world, Australia. Hungary and Europe located here, and the United States on the other corner. It's a real world map, but show some subjective element. But look at a real mental space. A mental space, first time described in United States, in Chicago, in northern part, city on the northern part of United States. And how technology of the mental space, everybody receive a white sheet, no information on the sheet, and one pen. And the question, drawing information, for example, about the trajectory from lodging place and to the workplace. And two conclusions derived from this mental map. The first one, the selectivity. The people don't and didn't remember each element. The memory, the map on our brain, no a GPS, no a real detailed description of the space. Only the people who travel on the same trajectory from lodging to working place were able to memorize only some elements of the trajectory of travel, were necessary to make decision. A crossroads, a metro station, bus station, no more. Why? Because our brain somehow would like to avoid the overrating, save the capacity of the brain. Therefore, select and picking only the crucial information. First. Second one, memory, not only the objective information saved, but the emotional information. I don't know which is the situation in Indonesia, but Hungary, when I was a student, it was a very harsh political system. If somebody traveled abroad, it's very harsh control on the boundary had. And smuggling prohibited books, prohibited journals, and the currency, it was prohibited very harshly for punishment in prison for years. Therefore, even recently, when in the European Union, no real boundary checking, my stomach is up. Because I socialized to the period of socialist hard political control. And each situation, because once in 3 years had to travel abroad, and in this unique occasion, I would like to buy prohibited books, generally, in the literature or sciences. And I took to the, for example, to the luggages, some secret part of the luggages, and there is a chance for punishing for smuggling. Therefore, if, for example, I travel to Switzerland, from Switzerland to Germany, my stomach is up, because I socialized to this political and smuggling prohibited social condition. But the first occasion when described the emotional or other side, I had not so much accident, only once in Szeged, not so tragical, only the car hurt it a little bit. But when I drove on this crossroads, my stomach up, because somehow spontaneously my memories reactivate my emotion. on the time of accident. But in Chicago, because founded by a French colonizer, describe emotional connection with help of kindergarten experiments. In the kindergarten, distributed photos. We are in the 16th. Distributed photos about different parts of the Chicago, and ask not only kindergarten, elementary school. In the elementary school, ask the pupils write one emotion beside the picture, and very interesting overlapping. The high and middle class pupils wrote to the picture about the building with swimming pools, that the joy and similar emotion, and the immigrants who lived in the outskirts wrote hate. Because look at the swimming pool on other side of the fence. Therefore, very important peculiarity, selectivity of mental map and emotion. But look at a real mental map about Paris. At the beginning of mental map mapping, Stanley Milgram, American mental mapper, took one mental map about Paris. Somebody visited in Paris? Excellent, unbelievable place. Because in Europe there are only two global cities, Paris and London. It's a Berlin, it's a border case. It's a border case. I enjoyed living in Amsterdam similarly, but Amsterdam 500,000. It's a global village, really. You visited in Amsterdam? Unbelievable place. Majority of people it's using the bath. But very interesting, this is a consequence of oil crisis in the 70s. Because before oil crisis, even in the Dutch people used by car. But it's very interesting because recently we are living in the crisis, oil crisis and fossil fuel crisis. And answer of Dutch people, it's a good answer. Majority of people change to a bicycle, but not only bicycle. When I lived in Netherlands, it was very interesting. In the landscape, there are in different lanes. One for car, go and back. One for pavement for walkers, and one lane for bike and the biker, and one lane for horses. Because very popular, it's a riding, unbelievable place. Okay, look at a mental map of Paris. Mental map, as I told to you, it's very easy, white sheet, and the people is drawing the memories about the Paris. Vinoise a Seine River, of course, because it's crossing half of the city. If somebody visiting in Paris, once at least necessary to meet with the river. The second one, outskirts of Paris. Why? Because the people, the majority of local people, living in the outskirts, in the banlieue, as named the French people. Why? Because the core area is very expensive. Therefore, in the core area, the downtown living the richest people and the tourists and the place of the tourism. Okay, outskirts. Étoile, Arc de Triomphe, everybody know. At the end of Champs-Élysées, there is a étoile which constructed Napoleon. Okay, 61.9. Notre Dame, you know, it's a small church in France. Unfortunately, it's burned down but reconstructed. And the fifth, Tour Eiffel. Recently, this is somehow a symbol of the Paris, but very important to know that when constructed for the World Exposition, it was according to original plan only temporary. And according to original plan, after the World Exposition, would like to destroy somehow, but so famous and so successful, and left and reconstructed and reinforced the construction. And the last one, the sixth one, Bois de Boulogne. Bois, it's a name forest, forest of Boulogne. Why? Why so important that almost half of the people who participated in the experiment was able to draw the place of Bois de Boulogne and named the Bois de Boulogne? Which activity located? Nobody? Prostitution. Very interesting, because in the marketing, you know, this is a special sciences. There is an efficiency of information. In the, for example, commercial, very important how efficiently able to show information. And who are the consumer of prostitution? Male. In this experiment participated half male, half female. Therefore, almost each of male not only know the name of Bois de Boulogne, but was able to draw in the correct place. Therefore, this is the most efficient information according to point of view of marketing. Okay, we closed the introduction, we introduced the basic concept, the basic term. Look at how we can use in the real situation. If we are looking at real interaction between physical environment and society, we have to separate according to terms. Fellenroder, I spoke about his concept in the case of history, divide according to three time dimension a history. A short term, middle term, and a long term, long durée. If, for example, we are looking at this course, it's happened in the concept of short term. Why? Because we start in September and we will close at the end of January. Half year. It's a short term in historical concept. Middle term, it's middle term less than 10 years, less than 1 decade. Therefore, this is, for example, your university studies will accomplish less than 10 years, but it's somebody more ambitious, it's possible postponed. And long duration, it's a more decade or more centuries I spoke about in the case of time concept. The first one, look at the short term. Because interaction between physical environment and society, if happen short term, society, social influence and environmental influence, it's very easy to verify the nature of interaction. There is some problem? No? Okay. Look at, for example, a Hungarian story. A Mongolian invasion, not only Hungarian, it's a global story, because probably you know that Mongolian Empire was the largest empire, whole of the human history. It's larger compared with the British Empire. Moreover, the British Empire connected by ocean, and the Mongolian Empire is landlocked empire from China to the boundary of Hungary. It's unbelievable. Whole of Eurasia, not whole, but almost the majority of Eurasia covered. On the time, a Hungarian king named Béla the Fourth, and his enemy is a Batu Khan. Batu Khan is possible, you know his name. He was the grandson of Genghis Khan. Grandson of Genghis Khan. He was the political and the military leader against the Hungary and Poland. This invasion, we played in the same team on the time and lost the battle in both sides, the Polish army and the Hungarian army. And why interesting for us the story? Because Hungarian had information about the invasion of Mongolia. Why? Because Hungarian tribes came from Eurasia, around the Ural Mountain. It's possible, you know, that if we are looking at the language, we are relatives are Finnish, Estonian, and some small people in Siberia. But on the time of conquest of Carpathian Basin, real area of Hungarian state, Hungarian tribes spoke two different languages, a Finno-Ugric and a Turkish. And it was very interesting. On the time of Hungarian conquest was somehow, it's open question, which will the language, final language of Hungarian. And final language later became a Finno-Ugric, a Hungarian. A little bit same situation. You know, for example, a Bulgarian history, Bulgarian. Bulgarian founded by Turkish tribes. But the Turkish tribes was a minority. And the Slavic people and the Slavic majority assimilated. Therefore, recently in Bulgaria speak a Slavic language. A Turkish minorities who was the organizer. And look at, for example, a Russian history. A Russian history. Somebody know which was the name of first dynasty of Kiev Principality, recently very actual? Rurik. Rurik. Who was a Rurik? Sorry. Rurik, a Viking. Therefore, first state of Slavic people in Russia organized by a Viking nobleman. And until the death of his dynasty, it's happened 1596, a Viking dynasty ruled Russian lands. Very interesting, it's very typical. A small minority organized the country who know the political know-how and the military know-how and later assimilated. Okay, turn back to the story of Hungary. And very interesting, a Hungarian traveler, it's a long century mission finding a Magna Hungaria, Eastern Hungary. And very interesting, after 3 centuries of Hungarian conquering of Carpathian Basin, Friar Julian traveled back to Volga River. You know, Volga River is the largest river whole of Europe. Well, Danube is the second one. Here, and found a Hungarian who left in Volga area and received information, Mongolian invasion against Central Europe. Okay. Arrived Mongolians and won against the Hungarian army. This is the place of crucial battlefield of Muhi. It's a small village, recently. And very interesting the story, because for long, not centuries, long decades, in the Hungarian elementary and secondary school taught a Hungarian king so bad, and the Hungarian military generals and the military organization so bad that lost and failed each situation. But very interesting, if we are looking at history, one documentary source, no documentary source. Therefore, I suggest to you, if you receive information about some critical situation, checking more from more sources. Because one information, no information. And good example, the Battle of Muhi, that 10 years ago, a Chinese documentary sources about this battle published from the perspective of Mongolian officer. And this was a very hard battle. The losing of soldier on the side of Mongolians very high, but finally, on the time, Mongolian troops was the best one. It's a World Cup winner in the football comparison. But why is so interesting for us, this story? Because Mongolians occupied almost all of the country, northern part of the country, central part, eastern part, except the western part. It's named Transdanubia, because this is the Danube River, the second largest river of Europe. And the invasion stopped. Why? Because the winter weather started very quickly and very early. Therefore, floating ice cover on the river. And finally, on late November, early December, frozen over. But the Hungarian soldier broken the ice cover. And Mongolians used a strata game. You know which is the strata game? A tramp. Left on the left side of the river, a large herd of cattle. It's a grazing cattle. Because this was the logistical feeding system of the nomadic troops, nomadic army, it's a shepherding, gathering a lot of animals, for example, sheep and the cattle. And it's quite normal, a lot of animal left and grazed out from the central herd. And a Hungarian soldier, unfortunately, didn't read regularly the Bible, don't wish other cattle, and crossed over the safe place of frozen river and drove to other bank cattle. And the sentinel, a Mongolian sentinel, realized the good place of path through the river and followed the Hungarian army and destroyed even Transdanubia. Why so interesting story in the point of view environmental history? Because this is the interaction two circumstances. First, Mongolian invasion interacted with harsh winter anomaly. And it was a tragical for Transdanubia. Why? Because the following April, whole of the Mongolian army went back to Mongolia. But why? Because the great Khan, Ögedei, died. And started the selection of the new great Khan. Look at the situation, critical situation, Mongolian invasion and the weather anomaly. If no Mongolian invasion, only a cold winter, no problem. If no cold winter, the Mongolian army not able to cross on the river. Therefore, there is a chance for Transdanubia to survive unhurted condition the year of invasion of Mongolia. This became tragical for the Transdanubian population because the weather anomaly and a Mongolian invasion interfered. Look at one middle level interaction. This is the story before French Revolution. This is a series of agrarian disasters. It's hot summer, very hot and dry summer, extremely cold winter and drought summer, fodder failure during the springtime, droughty summer, very cold winter. If we calculate and recall the name of years before French Revolution, the final result, 7 years. 7 years. Why is so important? Look at, for example, the story in the Bible, the Moses. 7 thin and 7 thick cow. You know this story because it's a Christian story from the Bible. Who don't know the Moses, history of the Moses? You know the name of Moses, okay? Moses found by daughter of Pharaoh. And he became the chief chancellor of Pharaoh because able to rationalize a dream of Pharaoh. You know this story?
Yeah.
Everybody knows? Okay. And very important, in the traditional society, traditional agriculture, after 7 years, not able, how the name is, saving the mill's energy and conserving the energy longer time than 7 years. If continuously for 7 years there were bad harvest, the traditional society collapsed. This is 7 years, the term of endurance of traditional society, and the consequence of cruel practice of French Revolution. You know, it's killed majority of French nobility on the years, and finally killed personally the king Louis XVI. The cruelty of the revolution, it's derived from the deep traditional subsistence crisis. And almost finally, Irish potato famine. You know the story of Irish potato famine? No? Ireland was a colony, a real colony, the first colony of England. And colonization of Ireland, in consequence of colonization of Ireland, made a truncated society. You know which is the truncated society? A truncated society means, if we try to describe the society, the normal traditional society, we can model as a pyramid. This is the king, nobility, citizenry, and majority of peasantry. This is normal situation. But in consequence of colonization of Ireland, English and the Scottish elite truncated the Irish society, killed Irish king, killed the majority of Irish nobility, and killed the majority and assimilated the majority of citizenry, Irish citizenry. Therefore, constructing a parallel situation, like in the colony, for example. A majority of Irish society left peasant, spoke Celtic language and Catholic, Roman Catholic. And the upper part of the society, Scottish and English, spoke English, but recently Irish people speaking recently English because assimilated, but in the early modern time saved the Celtic language. It's English and Scottish and citizens or noblemen and Protestant. Therefore, the boundary of lower and upper part is very hard. Hate each other, hate each other. In consequence of colonization, majority of the state under control of colonizer. And the estate of peasant, Irish peasant, so small that no efficient for the family, the cereal production. But appeared the potato from America, central and southern part of America. And the potato, you know which is the potato, the plants? The potato able to carrying capacity 6-fold higher compared each of cereals, 6-fold. Therefore, each of small Irish peasant made a monopoly, not a monopoly, it's not monoproduction, how the name is, monoculture, potato monoculture, not any other. But fortunately or unfortunately sometimes, geographical discoveries, a communication of people, communication of idea, and communication of virus and bacteria and fungi. Look at, for example, COVID-19. This is the communication of different areas. In this situation, most important factor, Phytophthora infestans, a fungi infection. You know which is the fungi infection. Okay. Fungi infection appeared from Central America. Arrived to Ireland in 1847, but which is the ideal climate condition for fungi? Warm and the wet weather. This is the triggering effect. You know which is the trigger? A trigger, this is on the shotgun, it's a trigger. Triggering effect means a small changes launch one chain of interaction and you are not able to stop. Small thing, wet and warm weather. launch the interaction, and whole of the potato harvest rotted. Whole of the potato harvest rotted. In consequence of that, population of Ireland was 8.4 million, collapsed, overpopulated on that time the Irish island, and 2 million disappeared. 1 million emigrated, and 1 million died. But very important to tell, it's possible, I told to you, nobody died in the traditional time for famine, for hunger. Because the hunger only destroyed immunity, the biological immunity, and the killer were different diseases. Plague, typhus, smallpox. No died for famine, because the real killer, some diseases. 1 million died, and 1 million emigrated. Emigrated to the United States. Look at, for example, Brooklyn and East Coast emigration, Irish emigration, emigrated to Australia. Very interesting. Almost nobody emigrated to England because hate each other. But very interesting, quite large emigration moved to Scotland. At the beginning of today's lecture, I told to you, for example, Celtic Rangers football team founded by Irish immigrants. Not by chance, which is the color of Celtic Rangers? Green. It's a typical Irish flag. It's a green one. Okay. Good. And the last example, about the Second World War. Second World War. World War II. I found this story personally. This was my first international conference at the beginning of 90s, before your birth year. Very interesting socialization on to the academic world. It's a, you know which is the gerontocracy? This is the ruling of elders. Academic and university world, it's a ruling of older people. If somebody young in the university or academic world, nothing. Very low salary, very low connection, very low influence to the life, to the academic life. And step by step increased. But when I visited in this conference in Mainz, in Germany, I was on the bottom, on the academic world, before the computer world. Therefore, the communication, it's an anthropological essay or interview, the communication was writing the letters. You listened about, and walking to the post and send the letters, and waited 2 or 3 weeks for answer. Unbelievable, from the perspective of real recent work. Anyway, I sent one letter to a professor of Bern University, Switzerland, that I specialized climate history. I'm interested for. Okay, I received answer. No problem. We organized one conference in Germany, in Mainz, and my answer. I'm very happy, but unfortunately, I am a young researcher. No money for participation, and receive answer letter. It's a lot of months. The communication term. Receive answer that no problem, wrote to me a Swiss professor. I communicated with one foundation. This foundation will finance expense of participation, because there is a fee of participation. I answered, I'm very happy, it's a great occasion for international communication, but unfortunately I no money for lodging. I received answer, no problem. I spoke the leader of the foundation, sent to me a letter by Christian Fichter, my professor. I communicated with the leader of foundation, we'll finance a lodging, a hotel. It's very important, because probably you know, that in the lodging fee, there is a breakfast. And eating breakfast are 3,000 calories, not so easy, but possible. Because on the time of conference, this was the 1 meal per day. And the last letter I sent to my professor, I am very happy. I am a financed my lodging, but unfortunately I have no money for tickets, railway ticket. It wasn't true. And finally I received 2 tickets, go and back to Hungary. Okay, I arrived to the conference and I realized I am only Hungarian. And with my Bulgarian colleagues participated each fee occasion, which no necessary to pay at the end of consummation. And it was an opening ceremony. It's a free consummation. And we drank too much. And the following morning, I walked to the hotel restaurant for the breakfast. This was the basic condition of my survival. And I listened, somebody told to me a Hungarian word, Hungarian sentence. It's a good morning with short drinks. There is a, for Hungarian, you are only Hungarian, pálinkás jó reggel. Okay, short drinks, you know, this is alcohol, short drink. My first reaction was, this is a hallucination. We drank too much, first hallucination in my life. But repeated more times. And finally I realized it's no hallucination, it was Yehuda Naiman. Yehuda Naiman was born in Hungary, a Jewish methodologist, but not the Jews. It's interesting because his family escaped before the Holocaust and survived this area. In Europe, under control of Germany, a German army, a Wehrmacht, only 2 countries it was possible to survive the Holocaust. Somebody know which country survived? It was possible to survive the Holocaust. Denmark and Bulgaria. No any other country. Why? Because the ambassador of Bulgaria in Berlin was a Jew. Therefore, no order sent to Sofia about separation of a local Jewish community. This one first. And the second country where survived the local Jewish community, minority Holocaust is Denmark. Why? I'm generally Republican, but there is some exception. Denmark is a kingdom under ruling of Danish royal family. I don't know, but on the time of World War II, the name of Danish king was a Keresztély. I don't know, Christian, I don't know which, Hungarian name is a Keresztély, but I didn't see the English version, Christian or something similar. And very interesting, the procedure of Holocaust. The first step, a separation of Jews to the other people. And which was the first device of the separation? Necessary to sew the yellow star. And the Danish king sew on his coat to the yellow star. And because Danish king was somehow presentation of Danish sovereignty, therefore each of Danish people saw the yellow star. Therefore, no chance for separation of Jewish community. And later, when the German local leader increased the pressure, organized evacuation of Danish Jewish minority to Sweden. Therefore, only 2 countries survived without real loss, local Jewish minority Holocaust, Bulgaria and Denmark. And fortunately, Yehuda Naiman was one of member of Danish Jewish minority. And he became, in Copenhagen, meteorologist, graduated as a meteorologist and worked in the Danish Meteorological Service. And after he retired, it's a quite typical in the natural scientists, turned toward a hobby. For example, analyze the flood wave of Nile, analyze alpine condition on the military campaign of Hannibal, and very different the perspective of meteorologists, a natural scientist, looking, for example, condition of the Alps on the time of military campaign, and analyze for personal connection the invasion or first invasion against Soviet Union by German army. It's named Barbarossa, Plan Barbarossa. It's a quick war strategy. It's named Blitzkrieg. This is the German name of this quick operation with mobile tanks and mobile units of the army. And very interesting, according to real military analysis, the goals and the targets of Barbarossa plan, it was a real. Which was the plan? Which was the target? Occupy European part of Soviet Union until the Ural Mountain. Occupying southern part of Soviet Union until the Caucasus. It's a southern part. It's an oil fields area. It was a real plan. But bad winter selected for the invasion because this was the fourth coldest winter of the 270 or more, it's a 260 years long St. Petersburg time series. It's very cold. In Hungary, not so cold the weather, not so cold the winter. The winter average temperature plus 0.5. 0.5. Only January until zero. It's not so cold. And in Germany, sorry? No. Okay. In Germany, much warmer. Why? For ocean climate and the nearness of ocean and the ocean climate influence. But in Russia, it's very cold. It's verified the Napoleonian Wars. It verified even the World War II. And look at the battle casualties between October 1941 and 42. 140,000 died in the battle, 40,000 disappeared, and 150,000 starved with cold. Therefore, almost half of the German army destroyed by General Winter, as named in the military experts. Therefore, it's stopped the invasion. Moreover, something happened in 7th December 1091. What happened? Somebody know? Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor. It's very important. Why? Because on the time of World War II, majority of China under Japanese control. Therefore, the Soviet general is afraid for double side attack against the Soviet Union. And when Japan turned toward to the direction of the United States, it was obviously that no danger of Japanese invasion. Therefore, majority of forces may turn toward a European direction. And somebody saw the movie Enemy on the Enemy on the Gates. Nobody? Enemy on the Gates, about the Battle of Stalingrad. This battle is a turning point of the World War II, won by troops from Siberia, because the sensibility of the coldness in Siberian people more different compared with Europeans, for example. Okay, why is so important this example? Because critical invasion, the highest number army invasion against the Soviet Union, and climate anomaly. And the price of climate anomaly, half of the loose people on the side of German army. Okay. This was the last one. Okay. We have 1/4 yet, and only start the next one. We close the short term and look at the long term interaction. Look at some elementary information first. If we are looking at human history from the point of view of environment and environmental interaction, we have to calculate with two actors, Earth and humankind. A globe and a humankind, which appear on the last phase of evolution. If we are looking at Earth, some elementary data. It's a long and a short survey. Earth is the largest terrestrial planet. You know, probably in the Sun system there are two groups of the planets. It's Earth-type planets. It's Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. And from the Jupiter, it's a gas-based planets. And the second one, it's formed 4.54 billion years ago. Billion, it means American English, according to British English, a million. Highest density, highest surface gravity, and the strongest magnetic field is very important because safe from the universal radiation, and the fastest rotation. Faster and slowing down the rotation. You know why? This is the consequence of moon, because there is a, how the name is, it's moving of water. It's too late. Which is the name of moving? It's a flooding up and flooding down. Like, for example, ice dancer. It's rise the hand, it's slowing down, and taking beside the body, it's increase the speed. And the flood made by moon, it's slowing down the Earth rotation. Okay. Look at the chemical composition of Earth. The highest one is iron. Majority of iron on the core area. It's a fluid manner, fluid version. The second one, oxygen. Very important. Why? Because we are living oxygen-based life. And silicon, magnesium, and very important. And I bought it because first form of the life, 3.8 million or billion years ago, appeared as sulfur-based life. First sulfur and the oxygen-based life only later. Okay? We are living in the atmosphere and hydrosphere, as I mentioned in the before, 97.5 saline and salt water, and 2.5 only fresh water, and the majority, 2/3 of fresh water, currently there is ice. But more interesting, we are living in the third atmosphere of the history of Earth. The first atmosphere on the time of formation of globe based on helium and hydrogen. Why? Because the main material elements of the sun, helium and hydrogen, and in the sun there is a helium and hydrogen fusion. And the second one, when in the first phase, Earth, sorry for geographical peculiarities, it was a warm body, warm Earth, and cooled down. And on the process of the cooling, the most important element of atmosphere, carbon dioxide, ammonia, and very important, the nitrogen. Recently, the dominating element, as you know, nitrogen appeared in the second atmosphere, and recently we are living in the third atmosphere: nitrogen, oxygen, argon, carbon dioxide, vapor, vapor. Okay, water. The second basic information, biosphere. Only the timeline of evolution. As I mentioned, the first form of life appeared 3.8 billion years ago. Around 3 billion years ago appeared the photosynthesis and the oxygen-based life. Jump years, 5 million years, appeared the fish. A little bit later, land plants, and 200 million years ago appeared the mammals, and started the evolution of human 2.5 million years ago. Look at the human evolution. Human evolution. If we are looking at human evolution, the last step, it's a bifurcation of primates and the early humans. Our primates track back until 85 million years ago, and this is the bifurcation between 18 and 12 million years ago. Orangutans, and 12 million years ago, the gibbons and the orangutans, and between chimpanzee, gorillas, and the chimpanzee happened between 8 to 4 million years ago. Very interesting. You met personally with the primates, chimpanzee and orangutans in zoo? Yeah, very interesting, the communication. Because for a long time, try to communicate, try to learn to communicate in the human version. It's a verbal communication with the primates. It's no chance for that. And finally understood it's no good way. But a lot of primates was able to communicate with help of sign alphabet. Sign, you know. Deaf and dumb people able to communicate with the different signs. And the primates learn, the cleverest orangutans learn 600 different signs. And it was very interesting. It happened in the late 60s as early 70s in the 20th century. It's a good innovation because for a long time thought about the human, that a human able to make a new word, a new concept. It's not true. The orangutans, a female orangutan, is named Sarah. It's published a lot of articles about her, was able to make a new word. For example, knew the concept of water and the concept of bird, and for example one duck, white duck, and made a water bird. And other side, ask her, who are you? It's a basic question, who are you? And ask, you are a person or you are animal? And very clever answer of these primates. I am not a person, I am not an animal, I am a fine orangutan. Unbelievable. Okay, but you know the movie, it's a science fiction movie, which is the English name, it's not the planet of chimpanzee or not? Ape, sorry, thanks. It's possible, it's increased the speed of evolution. You know which is the most important condition of evolution? A small community. Because in large community, no evolution. Look at the humankind. Humankind is almost 8 million. Each innovation, each evolutionary impact, it's like a wave, it's slowing down. Real evolution may transform the community, only small community, which happened in some period of human evolution. Okay, but very important to realize that 98.4% of the DNA of chimpanzee and the human are the same. Good. If we are looking at the evolution of humankind, recently there are two theories. The first one, East Side Story, you know the musical of West Side Story, it's associated for that, and the aquatic hypothesis. Other important peculiarity, we are looking the evolution tree of human evolution. Evolution work together with different version. Recently, only whole of the Earth exists only one species of human, Homo sapiens sapiens. But if we are looking back, evolution played in different version. Therefore, if we are looking at human evolution, this is a unique period because there is only one species, no other tribe of evolution. Okay, look at the East Side Story concept. East Side Story concept based on geological changes. This is the rupture line, eastern rupture line of Africa. A lot of volcanoes and a lot of tectonical events unfolded in this area. A little bit same situation like in Madagascar. In geological perspective, probably this name a horn of Africa will move to the direction of Indian Ocean and will become like Madagascar, an island on the Indian Ocean. But for geological reason, change the position of this area. This is the equator. On the equator, the typical vegetation, it's a tropical forest. Which is the good strategy on tropical forest? Because in the chain of consummation, the human and the apes located in the middle. Very dangerous position. Therefore, which is the good way of escape? Up to the tree. But, in consequence, geological position, a tropical forest transformed to savanna and had to change the strategy of survival. Which was the good strategy? Bipedal walking. A bipedal walking. According to East Side Story theory, the key factor, the triggering effect of the adaptation and the bipedal walking is open the hand for making devices and for bringing devices, similar, important. In this area happened. And majority of archaeological sites located to this area and to southern part of Africa, but this is the richest one. This is the final phase of transformation and some picture about how transform from the gibbon, human, chimpanzee, gorilla and orangutan, how adapted to the bipedal walking. Other theory, and almost this is the last slide, aquatic hypothesis. Very interesting that even the Greek philosophical tradition had a theory that we came from the ocean. Later, this theory introduced the Milesian philosopher Anaximander that the humankind came from the ocean. But later, British scholars, Sir Alistair Hardy and Alan Morgan, redefined the concept of we came from the ocean. Why interesting that? As I mentioned, a human on the middle of chain of consummation. And the great cats like lions and pumas and tiger, dangerous for the human. But beach is the safe place for the human community for survival. A shallow water. A shallow water. Therefore, according to theory of Hardy and Morgan, early human community found for the camp a shallow, you know which is the shallow? It's not so deep, shallow water. Because it's approaching lion, the community escaped to the shallow water. And the great predator hate the water, except my cat. I told a story about my cat? No? My cat found it's very small. Later we realized that the mother of my cat has died somehow, and even opened the eyes, and I became the mother and the father, and we applied the artificial feeding, but so sensible the stomach, it's shitting almost continuously. Therefore, each day, 4 or 5 times, I had to take into the bath. And my cat enjoyed taking a shower or everything. Therefore, my program each evening, going to the bath with my cat and lying on my body. Unbelievable. I will show a picture. And very interesting because I was her mother, learn my schedule, my programs, and repeat my habits. And she liked the beer, no way to the masculine direction. Enjoy the cafe, early morning. This is the general custom of us. I make the coffee, early morning coffee with milk, and the first is to my cat. And late evening, when watching a football match, sit down on the screen and open a bottle of beer, and the first is to my cat. It's very richly I documented. If you see on my Facebook profile, you can realize how drinking a beer my cat. His name is Zizia. Okay, thanks a lot for your attention.